In this video, I'll be going over multiplying and dividing rational expressions from problems 11 to 15. Homework 19 to 25, skip 22. So 11-15 is just a quick little review question. Part A is 2/3 times 9/14. So there's two ways to do this, and I'm going to kind of go over both ways. Remember, to multiply fractions, you just go straight across. So you could multiply first. 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 14 is 42. So you can multiply straight across and then reduce. So just looking at these right away, I know 2 goes into both of them. 2 goes into 18 9 times, 2 goes into 42 21 times, 3 goes into both of these, 3 goes into 9 3 times, and into 21 7 times. So basically I just went like divided by 2, divided by 2, and then divided by 3, divided by 3. Not the best notation, but that just shows you what I did. I got 3/7. Another way to do this same problem is you could simplify first and then multiply. And so some of you might see this and say, okay, well 2 goes into 14 7 times. So if I divide both of these by 2, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 7. Here I have 3 and 9, so if I divide by 3, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 3. And now if I multiply straight across, 1 times 3 is 3, divided by 1 times 7 is 7. It doesn't matter which way you do this. Here you're going to have bigger numbers and then simplify. And sometimes you might do some of both. You might simplify it and not catch everything and then reduce it at the end. It doesn't make a difference. Part B, same idea, 3/5 divided by 12/25. Before you try to do anything, remember with fractions, to divide fractions, you keep the first one, flip the second one, and change this to multiplication. Keep, change, flip. Oops. 3/5 times 25/12. And so again, you have your options. You could multiply straight across and then reduce, or you could try reducing at first. So 3 goes into 12 4 times, 5 goes into 25 5 times, and you get 5/4. Again, if you wanted to multiply straight across, 3 times 25, you would have gotten 75/60, and then you just reduce from there. So that's just to remind you how to multiply and divide fractions. On problem 16, it's the same idea, except we're getting into rational expressions. They're not just numerical values here. So on part A, it's 4x plus 3 divided by x minus 5 times x minus 5 divided by x plus 3. So whenever you have a like terms, one in the numerator, one in the denominator, they can cross out and make your big 1. You could rearrange them, but it's not that serious or important to do it that way. So we have an x minus 5 and an x minus 5 that cross out and make a big 1 essentially. So we get 4x plus 3 times x plus 3. Remember, this cannot be simplified. Get that zoom focused a little bit. Even though they're both with the x plus 3's, this whole term binomial has to stay together. Alright, part B is x plus 2 over 9x minus 1 divided by 2x plus 1 over 9x minus 1. Remember, to divide fractions, the first one stays the same. And then this becomes multiplication, and you flip the second fraction over. So here in my numerator and denominator, I both have an x. Nope, I copied that down wrong. Sorry, this is 2x plus 1. If I flip this second fraction. So 9x minus 1 and 9x minus 1. So I end up with x plus 2 over 2x plus 1. So a couple more of these I want to do. Part C is 2m plus 3 over 3m minus 2 times 7 plus 4m divided by 3 plus 2m. So look at this one closely. Is there anything that you think can cross out? It's multiplication, so we don't need to flip anything. But this 2m plus 3 and 3m plus 2, those are the same thing. We know we could write 3 plus 2m as 2m plus 3 if we wanted to. So because it's addition, these could just be switched, and those are still going to make your big 1 there. So we get 7 plus 4m over 3m minus 2. I'm going to skip to part E, just kind of going over some of these. On part D, it has the cubed up top, so you might just want to write that out 3 times. But part E is 15x cubed over 3y divided by 10x squared y over 4y squared. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my second fraction and make it multiplication. So you have a couple of options here, going back to kind of this first problem. You could multiply straight across and then simplify, or you can try to simplify the coefficients in the front and then multiply. It's not going to make a difference in your answer as long as you do it correctly. So I'll just worry about my coefficients, the numbers in front. So 15 and 3, this can become a 1 and a 5. 4 and 10, 2 goes into both of those. So this can become 2 and 5. And then from here, the 5s can go away. Again, I was just doing the numbers in front, the coefficients. So now 1 times 2, I get 2x cubed y over, 1 times 1 is 1, I don't need to write it, x squared y squared. You have a couple of options. Some of you might remember your exponents pretty well, and if you don't, write it out. This doesn't take more than about 5 to 10 seconds to write out. And if writing it out is going to get you the right answer, then just write it out. Again, some of you will see the answer from here. You'll see y squared over y squared cross out, x cubed divided by x squared. Well, there's 3 on top and 2 on bottom, so just like right here. An x over an x, an x over an x, a y over a y over a y. So you end up getting 2x. Okay. We're going to skip F part F also. This problem did also ask us to give the excluded values, which I didn't do. I went over that in the last video. Remember, the excluded values are what would make you divide by 0. So kind of the first step, what would make it 0. So like on part A here, you can't have x be 5 or negative 3. Neither of those are allowed because they would make the denominator 0 in the original problem. Alright, So 17, we're going to go probably just to part D. And then A and B, those are just really those straightforward problems from the beginning, just reminding you. So 20 over 22 times 14 over 35. Again, your preference if you want to simplify now or after you multiply. I personally do it at the beginning because I have smaller numbers. So 20 and 22, 2 goes into both of those. That gives me 10 and 11. 14 and 35, 7 goes into both of those. So that gives me 2 and 5. From here, maybe you want to multiply straight across. Maybe you don't kind of check anything else and you get 20 over 55. And then you recognize 5 can go into both of these. So divide by 5. And you'll get 4 over 11. Again, some of you may have noticed that right here. Well, I have a 10 on top and a 5 on bottom. That's fine. Whatever way works better for you. And again, maybe you usually do that but missed it. Then you just simplify at the end. So B is 12 over 40 divided by 15 over 6. So this is 12 over 40 times 6 over 15. So then make sure you flip it first and don't start simplifying first. Don't simplify the 12 and the 6 as your first step. You won't get it right then. They don't work that way. So if I simplify here, let's see, 12 and 40, 4 goes into both of those. So 4 goes into 12 3 times, 4 goes into 40 10 times. Here, 3 goes into 6 and 15, so 3 goes into 6 twice, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. Well, I can multiply straight across and then simplify, or simplify first. The only thing here that can be simplified, so I have a 3 and 2 on top and a 5 and 10 on bottom or in my denominator. So this 2 can become a 1 and this 10 can become a 5. So now when I multiply straight across, I'm left with 3 times 1, which is 3, over 5 times 5 is 25. You ask yourself, can that be simplified? It can't. So you move on. And then part C, this is where it starts getting trickier and you have to do your factoring. So you have 5x minus 15 divided by 3x squared plus 10x minus 8, that fraction, divided by x squared plus x minus 12 over 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. So first thing you want to do, if you had any obvious ones, you could cross them out, like if this was the same or if this was the same. But because it's division, you just want to flip it and change it to multiplication. So 5x minus 15 over 3x squared plus 10x minus 8 times 3x squared minus 8x plus 4 divided by x squared plus x minus 12. So if you don't remember how to factor, this is going to be a pretty hard section for you. If you need help with factoring, you could either email me and I can possibly make a video, but I don't know if anyone needs one, so let me know. Or you can ask during Zoom this week, which I have scheduled for you guys on Thursday. I'm going to not review the factoring here and just kind of tell you what they would be if you factored them. If we were doing these in class, I would probably have you split them up in your groups, and you wouldn't have to factor each one. So here, 5x minus 15, that's a linear. It doesn't have an x squared, so you can see the common factor is 5. So that becomes 5 times x minus 3 If I factored this, 3x squared plus 10x minus 8, that's going to factor into 3x minus 2 times x plus 4 times this guy right here, 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. That guy factors into 3x minus 2 times x minus 2. And finally this one, x squared plus x minus 12. That second denominator factors into x plus 4 times x minus 3. So now that it's factored, we look for any common factors. So I have x minus 3 on top and bottom. Those go away. I also have 3x minus 2 and 3x minus 2. Here I have x plus 4 and x plus 4, but I want to point out these are both in the denominator. These cannot cross out. Remember, when they cross out, you're making a big 1. Something divided by itself is 1. These are both in the denominator, so they stay there. So my answer here is 5 times x minus 2 over x plus 4 times x plus 4, or you can write that as x plus 4 squared. But do not try to cross those out because they are both in the denominator. And then the last one we'll do for this video, part D, 12x minus 18 over x squared minus 2x minus 15 times x squared minus x minus 12 over 3x squared minus 9x minus 12. Alright, so I just want to factor this guy, not this guy, all of these, 4 things I need to factor completely and then try to simplify. So let's see, 12x minus 18. This has a common factor of 6. So if I divide everything by 6, 12x divided by 6, I get 2x. 18 divided by 6, I get 3. So my first numerator factors into 6 times 2x minus 3. This first denominator here, x squared minus 2x minus 15, that factors into x plus 5 times x minus 5 times x plus 3. And then this guy here, x squared minus x minus 12, that factors into x minus 4 times x plus 3 over, this one I want to kind of do a little separately. So here, for this second denominator, 3x squared minus 9x minus 12, it has a common factor, a GCF, of 3. So if I factor that out, I get 3 parentheses x squared minus 3x minus 4. And then I would factor these parentheses. So this second denominator completely factored, the 3 out in front, and then x plus 1 times x minus 4. So that factors to that by pulling the 3 out. If you leave the 3 in at the beginning, you could factor it out after. That's fine too, but you have to factor it out in order to see how everything simplifies. So let's see. I have an x plus 3 and an x plus 3. I have an x minus 4 and an x minus 4. And then here I see 3 is in my denominator and 6 in my numerator. We know 3 goes into 6 twice. That becomes a 1. That becomes a 2. And then if I just go straight across, I am left with 2 times 2x minus 3 all over x minus 5 times x plus 1. And that's what you have for your final answer here. That's as simplified as possible. There is no reason to multiply this out and make it x squared minus 4x minus 5. That would just be extra work. Don't do, and more likely to make a mistake. So I don't recommend doing that.